Tonight's species can live inshore and offshore. They are found under ledges, rocks, artificial reefs, and a variety of structure. You can also find many types of these fish in Florida waters. In either case, they are one of the most favorite items on the dinner plate. Tonight, it's all about the groupers here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Hello, Floridians. Things are shaping up for a great weekend of fishing, and Captain Rick and I are here to bring you your captains who are in the know, especially about grouper. Right, Rick?
Absolutely, Brie. And you know, because we have so many different types of grouper, I thought it'd be really cool to use a few photos tonight to really talk about some of the most popular ones. So on the Gulf Coast, certainly the red grouper is very, very popular in the Gulf of Mexico. We also have the gag grouper, which that's one of my bucket list fishes, to catch a big gag. Plus, we also have the black grouper, and a lot of big groupers that have been caught. The biggest one I've ever caught was a 70-pounder.
Dang.
But as you know, my favorite fish to eat out of all the groupers is the scamp. It's a real white meat. And certainly if we're talking about groupers, we can't forget the big Goliath grouper, which is the biggest of all. You know, Brie?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Rick, we have a special guest joining us at the CCA workbench with Dave Ferrell today, who I've actually had the pleasure of landing a few grouper with, Mike Avenon.
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, Mike's coming in here and from Naples, and he's going to show us how to catch these groupers and tell us the difference between the red and the gag and how to get the difference between them.
All the different tips and techniques.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what I'm saying.
All right, you're getting some help today, Dave. It's okay.
We all
need help
make sure everybody's got fresh
especially
over
this
that
guy.
one, didn't I?
All right, well, before we get to our first captain, we hope everyone is staying safe and healthy during this time, and we're hoping you guys are getting out fishing as much as you possibly can. However, with our new normal, everything is constantly changing by region. So before heading out, make sure to check for updates with your local authorities and practice social distancing. Okay, now on to the reports. And as you know, Rick, 'tis the season in the Keys region, the season for reds, gags, and black grouper to be exact. So Captain Randy, start us out and tell them how to get it done.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, here in the Garmin Keys region, we've got a really strong grouper bite from Key Largo all the way down to Key West, the dry Tortugas. And groupers are really a popular fish. A lot of guys really enjoy catching these because of the table fare and also because of the tug of war. These fish will give you your money's worth, and especially if you're fishing a little bit deeper water, I like to fish around some of the wrecks, and certainly structure is what's going to hold these fish. Now, you could find them at a bridge, as well as you could find them on a rock or a ledge or the edge of the reef. There's quite a few areas you're going to find these grouper, and depending on your depth of water and depending on what you're trying to target, we have mostly black groupers in our region. We do have reds and we do have gags, but our black grouper is really what we target. Now, live bait, like a grunt or a pinfish or even a live ballyhoo is one of my favorites to use. And you're going to want some horsepower on the end of that. So you're going to want a heavy rod. You're going to want at least an 80 to 100-pound leader, because if he gets you around that structure, he is going to cut you off because he wants to go back into his house, not out of the house and into the boat. So you really got to pull on these things when you do get a bite, and that's what makes it the most exciting, and guys really like to fish for these things. Now, Captain Davy Jones out of Square Grouper here in Alamorada with Munster Fishing, he's no stranger to catching bottom fish, and he loves grouper fishing. I would really like to know how he catches them like this nice big black grouper his angler caught and had to let it go.
Oh, well, that means it's out there for somebody to catch during the open season, right, Randy?
There you go.
That's what I was thinking, and that's Friday, so it's a couple of days later. I think you might see my initials on that somewhere, and I might go try to find him.
I think you should. All right, tell us about the snapper fishing.
Snapper.
So mutton snappers, especially springtime right now, one of my favorite things to do. I love catching mutton snappers in deep water, and what I like about it is I can get in an area where I know I have live bottom, and if you go on your Garmin and you zoom in on your plotter, it will tell you some of the rocky, hard bottom areas. those are great to drift over. Drift over those rocky bottoms. I like live ballyhoos, cigar minnows, pilchards, live bait like that with a long leader, a 30 to 40 foot leader. For some reason, mutton snappers like a distance between the lead and that live bait. And if you've got conditions that will favor your drift, where you can cover some ground and stay in the optimal depth, might be 150 feet, might be 200 feet. It depends on where you are, because we're a big region all the way to Key West. And just wait for that rod to bend. And Rick, you and I know we've done that before. We've had some great luck with it. And evidently it rubbed off on Joe Niebuhr with Contender Boats, as here's a nice picture of his mutton snapper he caught here in Islamorada.
Yeah, that's a beauty, dude. That's a beauty.
Go Niebuhr.
All right, well, let's go inshore then.
You know, the backcountry right now with the triple tail fishing, you know, they just keep getting more popular all the time because they're fun to catch. You're sight fishing. They're great to eat. And you know what? When you make a good cast, they bite. They don't reject you. They don't turn you down. They play the game. And I give them a lot of credit. Now, right now, we don't have many lobster buoys, well, not lobster, stone crab buoys on the edge of the park boundary in the Gulf area. So there's nothing for these triple tails really to hide behind. So the markers, they're going to hang around the markers a little bit. But what I've been hearing, most of these fish are floating in on the surface on the incoming tide. And that's coming from the Gulf into the coast. And especially on a day that's calm, you know, the windier days kind of put them down, but the calmer days, they will float on the surface, and you can see them from a pretty good distance. And once you get in an area where you might find some, don't run away from it. Spend a little time and look, because there's probably going to be more. And live shrimp on a light rod, you're going to have to make a cast that they can see. They have blinders on, so their vision's not that good. So you want to get it right in their face, and they will give you just exactly what you're looking for in return. Now, Captain Richard Stanzik out of Bud and Mary's, he's been fishing the backcountry a lot in the last few years, and he's really gotten dialed in to catching some nice, big triple tails. He was back there the other day with his dad, Richard Stanzik of Bud and Mary's, and this was one of their triple tails they caught doing it exactly that.
Nice. All right, one more to go, bub.
You know, it's tarpon season. We've got plenty of tarpon. We've had our certainly days of beautiful weather. We've had a little bit of wind. But for the most part, the bridges are loaded with plenty of tarpon. And it seems to be on the incoming tide. This is really important. On the incoming tide, guys are getting the best results with live mullet. On the outgoing tide, already there's been crabs moving in the late afternoon, and the crabs are working better on the outgoing tide. So if you're at Channel 2, Channel 5, Long Key, wherever you might be, maybe try that. Switch over to a different bait on that outgoing tide, and you might have some good results. Now, I've got a photo of young Jack Paulhus with a broken leg catching 1 out of 2 tarpon with me the other day at Channel 2.
All right, pretty work, nice. Captain. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Sunset Inn hotspots from the Florida Keys region. Randy says inshore, tarpon, fish the bridges with live mullet on the incoming tide, and then switch to crabs on the outgoing tide, and then offshore, blackfin tunas. The fish are on the offshore humps off a Marathon first thing in the morning, and then you might want to look for them later in the day to get that low light condition, Brie.
A broken leg wouldn't stop me either.
Nope.
All right, now let's chat with Captain Jim Ross in the Bell's Central East region, where the season will be bringing some good eating. Talk to us, Jim.
Oh, I'm telling you, it sure will. If the past couple of weeks are any indication, when the season opens on May 1st, we are going to have some incredible grouper action here in the Central East region. And there's some really big fish right now. Now, our best grouper action typically occurs on the reefs and wrecks in about 120 to 250 or 260 feet of water. And most guys are using deep jigs tipped with a large ballyhoo or some kind of a belly strip to get some of those bigger fish, or just simply using live baits like croakers, grunts, mullet, pinfish, or menhaden. Those are all really good grouper baits on any of those structures that are in those depths. And I've got a really pretty fish picture here from Mindy Stewart on a fish that she actually caught on a piece of cut mullet, which isn't what you typically think of as a good bait, but in this case it was. I've got a second photo with Daniel Rodriguez with a beautiful fish that he caught in 600 feet of water with Captain Joe Smith. And then our third fish is from one of Port Canaveral's new upcoming Top Gun captains, Garen Malin, and he got this grouper on a live croaker in 120 feet of water on his charter boat called Seize the Day.
Nice.
The other thing that's been going on here lately is the wahoo, Rick. And wahoo are all over the place the last couple of weeks. I mean, some guys are going 60 and 80 miles when they're running over there to the other side looking for the yellowfin, and they're finding them over there on the eastern side of the Gulf Stream. Some of the guys are having really good success here on the 27 fathom ridge and the cones or steeples in 240 to 250 feet of water on this side of the Gulf Stream. High-speed lures are the key to catching wahoo either of those two places. But we had something really interesting happen here just recently. The guys and gals fishing out of the Canaveral area were catching wahoo up to 70 pounds while king mackerel fishing on the 70 to 90-foot reefs. And that doesn't typically happen until normally around the August time frame, but that did happen here recently. And so keep an eye out, because you never know where the wahoo are going to show up. And I've got a fourth photo here of Greg Lund with a really nice wahoo that he got on a purple and black lipped diving plug that he was pulling along a piece of floating debris, around a piece of floating debris in about 225 feet of water here recently. Now, Rick, swinging inshore, our speckled trout bite is still as good as it's been over the last couple of weeks. If you guys and gals haven't had a chance to get out, it is time. The trout bite's really good, and live finger mullet are one of the best things that you can use to fish for them. Fish these around mangrove-covered shorelines. You can fish them near docks. You can fish them near any kind of structure. That's where those bigger trout seem to be holding. And then also, the saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shads in the purple moon or the northern minnow color are working really good out on the flats when you're fishing around a lot of those mullet pods. Now, in stained water, we found that the avocado green with the red flake or the chicken on a chain in that 4-inch seems to be working a little bit better. And most of our trout are running about 1 to 3 pounds, but we're getting fish to 8 pounds right now. And then our last species is snook. And I don't know how to explain it, except that if you haven't been snook fishing here recently, you've got to get out. Because right now, like on my trips, we're getting 6 to 12 snook per trip. My customers are having an absolutely great time, and everybody that's going is catching trophy-sized fish. These fish are running 34 to 42 inches for the most part, and pinfish, mullet, croakers, pilchards, just about anything that's a live bait will work on a sliding sinker rig in the daytime. And if you guys and gals are going to the inlets at night, then try a 5 to 6 inch R&R flare hawk. Those nice flare hawk jigs that R&R makes, or a lipped diving plug, or a soft plastic swim bait that's about 5 to 6 inches in length. And that's how you're going to get those fish to strike. Now, right now, mid-May, early to mid-May to mid-June is absolutely the best time to catch snook in my region. So you guys and gals, if you're looking for that snook, time to get out there is right now. You know, once the seas calm back down, get back out there and you will catch some snook.
All right, thank you so much, Jim. It was a great report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan hotspots from the Central East region. Jim says inshore, the mangrove snappers on the docks and seawalls from Ponce Inlet to Edgewater. You want to use live shrimp or finger mullet on a knocker rig. And then offshore, yellowfin tuna, troll lures near bird packs located 80 to 90 miles offshore.
Ooh, what a run. All right, the Fish Bites East region is treading water in the wings, but first we're getting some first-hand rigs and technique knowledge from Dave Ferrell and the grouper king himself, Mike Avanon, way over there.
The grouper guru. And it's
Guru.
mostly going to be from Mike. I'm just going to be feeding him a question every once in a while.
Feeding
We've already
questions.
pre-done, just like the magic of
Dave,
television.
You've
We got the
such
new
a
top secret weapon right here.
Is that it?
Can't show you just yet. We'll show you later.
Picking brains.
Gotta
Picking
gotta come back to
Don't
see
look
it.
at it. Don't look at it. We'll be right back.
I say that all the time.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Contender Boats, always in the game. Noble Air Charters, raising the bar yet again. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Sirius XM Marine, weather, fishing info, and channel surfing. And Daiquiri Deck, Sarasota's favorite place to meet.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore. Casa Vieja Lodge on everyone's bucket list?
Left teaser. Left flat as well. 2 fish. They're everywhere. Right flat teaser as well. Left flat, right flat teaser.
Come to Casa Vieja Lodge and check it off your list.
Here we are at the CCA workbench for the Academy Sports Rigs and Techniques, and Mike Avanon from Naples is here. I'm not going to touch you. Coming out here.
That's right.
Coming out here.
We got to maintain 6 feet. That's right. Yeah, no,
coming out here to help us figure out these groupers.
Yeah, talk about groupers.
Now, groupers are great fish for our state, but we have several different ones, and the red and the gags are probably the ones we probably catch the most, and the ones we probably get confused the most.
Right, and actually, red groupers and gag groupers, there seems to be 2 main movements of fish that we see. Red groupers, what they like to do is they're actually in the shallower water when the temperatures are warm,
right?
Say maybe as close as 15 miles on the Gulf Coast. And then as the water cools, they like to move offshore. Gags are the opposite. Gags actually like the cooler water. They'll move inshore in the wintertime. Also, what we see is we'll see a movement of fish from north to the south as the water temperature drops in the winter.
They're getting out of the cold as well.
Just like you and I. We were talking about earlier, you don't like it cold.
So in February, we always, I live up in the Central Florida area. Right. We always thought February was a good time to go in Tampa and whatnot because the fish would be coming in. And those would be, in the wintertime, those would be the gags. The gags,
correct. And actually, a lot of guys, what they like to do is they'll troll a deep diving plug for those gags.
Right, that's what we were doing.
Else. Yeah,
a lot of that.
It's a great way to locate new spots and locate new fish.
Plus, we'd catch them in like 15 feet of water sometimes.
Yep. Sometimes right off the dock.
Wow.
Yeah, even in the docks in Tampa Bay, some of the guys will catch some of those nicer gags. And a key time, really, when all that seems to start, it seems to be right around that full moon and Christmas or just after. Yeah. Late December, early January always seems to be the best time.
So when you're heading out there, and depending on where they are during the time of the year, what kind of bottom are you looking for? What are?
So it's always got to do with structure. It's always, there's got to be a hole there. There's got to be something for him to go into.
They like a hole.
They like to hide. When you hook that fish, his instinct is to go straight for the hole. Okay. So what I always tell everybody, as soon as you feel the bump, the most important thing that you can do when you feel that pop is to crank. And don't stop cranking.
Wind.
Exactly. When that rod starts to double over and the drag starts to either peel or he's in the box, you got him. Remember?
That's what we tell everybody when we're snapper fishing and everything. Wind. And when you stop winding, wind some more.
That's right. Don't stop until the rod's doubled over or he's just sitting at the side of the boat waiting for you.
Now, what kind of tackle are you using when you're targeting these fish?
On my boat, we typically use 65 to 80 pound braid.
Right.
And that's plenty of horsepower to get most groupers up out of the bottom and up away from the rocks. As far as terminal tackle, in the wintertime when we're fishing red groupers, we'll use the 80 pound leaders. But when we get into the deeper water, summertime, red snapper season, June, July, or if you're fishing for bigger gags and blacks, we bump our leader up to 100, 125, 150.
Do you use fluorocarbon or are you just because you're fishing on the bottom?
I do, a lot of the red groupers that we fish in the Gulf, they're not really leader shy fish. But when you get into the gags, the blacks, those older fish, the bigger fish, they are leader shy. So yeah, fluorocarbon helps.
Now, what about live baits? Are you using, is that one of the, because that's what I use if I want to catch a grouper where I'm fishing
gags,
usually.
Now gags and blacks, they're definitely more tuned into the live baits. Now scamps, they would be tuned into live baits, squids, jigs work really well. But for the red grouper, in all honesty, a nice stinky bait, especially on the lighter tides when those fish are lazy.
Like a dead pilchard?
A dead pilchard squid. You can never go wrong with squid when you're fishing for red grouper.
Squid,
they love it. Yeah, that's true. So on the lighter tides, right, these fish are a little lazy. The red groupers, all groupers actually are dependent upon the tide. Water movement is key to the bite. The more water movement you have, the harder those fish feed. So what you want on the lighter tides, you want to try to take your time, fish a smelly bait, maybe use a jig. You can tip it with like a fish bites. And just to kind of get things going, take your time. On the stronger tides, those fish are feeding harder. You're not going to spend as much time there waiting. If you don't get a bite on it,
when the high tides are running hard, they eat fast.
They're feeding hard. Yeah, the harder the tide's moving, the harder the fish are feeding. And then the full moon also, don't be afraid to fish on a full moon. Some of the best red grouper fishing that we see the entire year is always on or before the full moon. That's those good strong tides creating that really good fish bite that you want to see.
And what kind of a weight are you using? Does it depend on how deep you are? Or what
we
do you
use
do?
mainly an 8 ounce. We're fishing in around 100, 120 feet of water most of the time, and 8 ounce seems to do just fine. I'm not worried so much about the lead with this rig, because what we're doing, if you take this and you look at it, right, this is the chicken rig that everybody likes to use. They call it a chicken rig, drop a rig, or whatever. So what you do,
I noticed that you've got like a shorter one.
Right,
it's like 12 inches or whatnot.
So the lead isn't that important. It's more for holding the bottom, because what you do is you're actually leaving the lead right on the bottom.
So this is a little slack.
Exactly. And with braided line and that little bit of slack, it actually makes it easier to feel that bite, more sensitive. And you'll feel, even on the lighter tides, when those fish are lazy and it's just a little tiny bump, you'll feel it.
Now when he takes off, you start, when you feel him take it off, you start winding immediately.
You just start cranking immediately.
You would have tried to keep it turning his head.
Remember, if you miss him, drop it right back just as fast as you can. It's kind of like with the sailfish. You miss a sailfish, kingfish, whatever.
Sometimes they'll come back.
You drop it right back. With the red groupers, gag groupers, black groupers, drop it right back, because chances are, as soon as that thing hits the bottom, he's going to eat it a second time.
If he hasn't taken the bait, you got another shot at him.
That's right.
And especially with circle hook, because a lot of times that really doesn't hurt him as much anyway.
Sting him. Yeah, no.
Well, good, man. Well, I appreciate it.
Looks like dinner coming right back to him there.
Exactly. Well, thanks a lot, man. That worked out good.
Yeah, no. Thank you, sir.
Went quick.
Easy.
So easy. Right, Rick? So easy?
Easy peasy, man. You go with Mike Avedon, it's like having a day off. You just catch him. It's automatic. You're jumping in the boat.
You're not fishing, you're catching.
All
right, keywords like reef, ledge, and rock come to mind in the Fish Bites East region. So let's get Captain Mike Holliday on the line to find out more.
That's true, Brie. The real key in my region is finding the good ledges and the sections of reef that don't get a lot of fishing pressure. It seems like the further north you go in my region, the better the fishing, with places like Bethel Shoals, the area inside the Ocalina Bank that's open to fishing, the 6 and 8 mile reefs, and the deeper wrecks. They all hold a lot of black and gag grouper this time of year, and which tend to be on the larger side. You'll also find a nice concentration of snowy grouper on the rocky structure that's out there over Push Button Hill. Now, grouper, engulf their food whole. They like a big bait, like a live grunt, pinfish, a pigfish, or a threadfin. In a pinch in my region, you can use a live mullet. The key really is to get your bait on the bottom and keep it there in front of the fish. So you want to use 60 to 100 pound gear with just enough weight to hold bottom, 80 to 100 pound leader, and an 8.0 trocar circle hook. The average group of my region is going to be 10 to 20 pounds. I got a photo. That's a nice black grouper that was caught on the Daymaker charter boat with Captain Pat Rice, and that fish ate a full-size blue runner. The other thing going on, there's really no rhyme or reason to the dolphin bite right now. This weekend there was a 54-pound fish that was caught in 50 feet of water, and at the same time there were 30-pounders coming out of 350 feet of water. It looks like the cold water that was around last week's gone, so expect a good push of dolphin all week, particularly on the days when the wind is out of the north or the northeast and bucking that Gulf Stream. Seems like when the waves stack up, the fish is good. There's been some amazing weed lines in less than 1,000 feet of water all week, but the most consistent action is coming off the color changes and off the floating objects, trees and logs and things that are out there. So you might want to carry a pair of binoculars on board and scan the horizon for floating debris, or at least look for birds. Live bait's plentiful along the beaches throughout the region, so this is a good time to also go out there and slow troll live threadfins or pilchards, or even drifts along a good edge and put up a kite, see if you can get that kite bite going. Average dolphin right now in my region is 10 to 20 pounds.
All right, let's go inshore there, bub.
Well, the water temperature in the Indian River is 79 degrees. That warm water's got the snook fired up and feeding aggressively. You want to start your morning throwing topwater plugs along the seawalls and along the shorelines of either the St. Lucie or the Loxahatchee River, or maybe slow trolling a live mullet up at Terrell Creek if you're looking for a big fish. And then as the sun gets up, you want to switch over to live bait, threadfins, pilchards, an 8 to 10 inch live mullet. That's going to get your daytime bite going. And, there's already fish pushing into the inlets and out onto the beaches, although a lot of those fish that are around the inlets are sub-slot males that are showing up pre-spawn. There's also been good nighttime bites on the bridges off Jupiter and off Stewart and even at Fort Pierce. The guys that are throwing R&R flare hawk jigs on the windy nights are crushing the big fish, and the guys looking for the slot fish are fishing live shrimp on a jig head around the fenders. Average snook is 5 to 15 pounds. We're certainly seeing fish bigger than that being caught right now as well. I got a photo there. That's Hayden Dobbins with a nice snook he caught. He caught that fish on a live pilchard. And if you look, it's got a broken line on the fish's side. We see those every now and then. It's a genetic anomaly that we see.
That's cool.
The other bite going on, the good thing about that warm spring is that it gets the tarpon bite going earlier than normal in my region. So places like the North and South Forks of the St. Lucie River, Big Mud Creek, and also around all the inlets in the region, those are starting to really pick up the tarpon. Most of those fish are resident fish, so a lot of them are that 5 to 30 pound fish, but there's also some big fish, around those inlets and also around the bridges at night. You can target the fish a couple of ways. You can put out live or dead mullet behind the boat, either anchor up or hold in place with the trolling motor, or you can cast to the rolling fish with small lures like a 4-inch saltwater assassin sea shad in that Houdini color. You watch them roll, you throw it right to the fish, let it sink, and then just reel it slow. I like to do both. I want to put 2 baits out behind the boat on a trocar circle hook, and then have an angler on the bow casting to any of the rolling fish with a sea shad. And it's like 50-50. Half the bites come on the baits, half the bites come on the guy casting at them. Around the inlets, you just want to float a live mullet out with the tide. I got a photo, gives you a good idea of the local fish we're seeing. That's Captain Buddy Kirkhart. He led Katie Woods to her first St. Lucie River tarpon, and that fish ate a live pilchard.
That's a great picture, bub. All right, we got to know about bass. That's part of your deal every week, so what do you got?
Yeah, man, the water levels on Lake Toho are down about 2.5 feet right now. And that combined with a lack of fishing pressure, it's got the school fish, pretty concentrated in the deeper water areas that fired up right at first light and in the afternoon around Browns Point and also some of the adjacent shell bars in that area. What's interesting is that the evening bite is better than the morning bite. So, you can get out on the water around 5 o'clock or so and fish the dark, throw a Bass Assassin, shad-colored swim bait, work it around the grass and do really well. You can drop down below the cover with a football jig with a June bug-colored fat job rigged Senko style on that, and you'll get 15, 20 fish before dark. The other thing, I was talking to Captain Steve Nymiller of BassOnline.com, excuse me, and he was saying those low water levels have stretched the spawning season. So he's still seeing a lot of bedding bass in late April. Those fish will make a push onto the beds on the next full moon, but until then, you want to, find 2 to 3 feet of water along the edges of the grass and work those areas with a logger toad or a topwater plug, and you'll find some of those big pre-spawn bass that are going to move in on the next moon. So, whether you're fishing early or late, the bite on toad has been strong, big fish and small fish right now.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the T&H Marine hotspots from the Fish Bites East region. Inshore, the spawning pompano schools off of Hobe Sound use sand fleas, shrimp, or clams with a strip of fish bite crab. And then offshore, kingfish in 90 to 120 feet of water off of Jupiter use sardines, live or dead, or slow troll or drift. It seems like it's working either way.
All right, everyone, it's time to get your grouper on and win big. CCA Florida Star has a grouper division with first place being Yamaha 115 HP. And remember, it's not the biggest grouper that wins. It just has to be of legal minimum size, and you have your shot at 6 payouts. We also want to let you know that Star has moved their start date to July 1st, so you have lots of time to get registered to win your share of $500,000 in prizes and scholarships. So head on over to ccafloridastar.com for more information. Okay, coming right up, we're getting back-to-back reports in the Startron Central West and Garmin Panhandle regions, so get yourself rigged up and ready to drop, and we'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. Garmin, join the club. Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealership, serving Southeast and Southwest Florida and Florida's Space and Treasure Coasts. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Real Legends Performance Clothing. Everything you need to be comfortable on the water all day long. Keeps you cool, dry, and protected from the sun. Durable performance technology at an unbeatable value. Shop anytime or go to reallegends.com to find a Bell store near you.
Every year, Noble Air Charter flies over 20,000 outdoorsmen and families just like you economically to over 300 Bahamian and Florida destinations. Noble Air Charter makes a substantial investment improving booking and aircraft route planning to create the most affordable and economical flight possible. And tomorrow, Noble Air's team will rise to the challenge to raise the bar yet again.
Navigating at night can be dangerous, even for the most experienced drivers. With over 400,000 pixels, Night Track makes it possible to navigate in the dark with confidence. Night Track seamlessly interfaces with all multifunction displays 2013 or newer and offers boaters or the outdoorsman peace of mind at an affordable price. For more information, call 251-605-9100.
Hey guys, we're here at the boat show, and as you can tell, we got the new Murphy's Law for 2021 season of Sportsman's Adventures. Let me tell you a little bit about the Contender 35 ST and some of the features that I really love about the 425s. So the reason why I picked the 425s is certainly the fly-by-wire steering. Wireless steering is a huge thing now, and I really love that feature, not having to deal with any more pumps or actually cables. The other thing that I really love about the offshore 425 XTO is the prop selection that I have. Now we're swinging over a 16-inch diameter wheel and a 23 pitch, pushing this Contender 35 at over 70 miles an hour. Now speaking of the lower units, you know there's days when we actually idle into shallow water so we can throw a cast net on mullet or pilchards. And when we're doing that, having the low water pickups that the XTOs have really make it a lot easier. What comes to mind is when I throw these motors in reverse, they're over 300% better in traction and going in reverse. So, you know, if you're thinking about repowering, the 425 XTO is something that I'd really recommend you do. The other thing that we did is to match up with these Yamahas is we put in the Helmmaster. And the thing that I love about Helmmaster is that in our fishing situations now, we have the ability to put it in a stay point, a drift point, or a fish point. Now what that basically means is in stay point, I'm gonna hold my position and heading. So it's great for waiting around the dock for a dock slip when I'm getting ready to put this big beast on a trailer. The other thing that I like about it is that in the drift point, I can actually hold a heading like if we were kite fishing or fishing off of a sea anchor, and the boat will hold that heading as we drift along. A great feature when it comes to fishing off the boat sideways. The other thing too, when we go to a wreck, we simply push fish point bow or fish point stern, depending on where we want to fish, and now it actually holds us there. The other thing that comes to mind is that you have a 5-year limited warranty on the Yamaha 425 XTOs. So if you have any questions, you can simply go to YamahaOutboards.com or go down to your local Yamaha dealer. You know, Brie, the thing that really amazes me about that big motor is that when you put those motors in reverse on the Murphy's Law, it literally makes the back end of the boat stand up. it's amazing how much thrust they have in reverse because of the new lower unit design. I'm very, very impressed. What a great.
Yeah, I learned a lot from your package there.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
awesome.
you can't say enough about it.
Right. All right, well, we have our StarTron Central West Region Captain, Jeff Page, on the line. I know you've got grouper, Page, so talk to us.
You know what? I know we got grouper, but Rick knows firsthand that we have grouper in the StarTron Central West region because he's filmed a couple Sportsman's adventures with our good friend Captain Chris Seeger of Tight Lines, and every time they filmed epic grouper action with a few scamps and also American red snappers mixed in. You know, as far back as I can remember, and I've lived here my whole life, I can remember the big party boats coming in, and they would always have the big reds and gag groupers all pinned up on the board, and the birds would be flying close to the boats. And I think there was the Captain Anderson and the Flying Fish way back in the day. And you know what? Right now, being springtime, the groupers are still in that 70, 90 to 110 feet of water. But as this water warms up, look for the red grouper especially to push on out into deeper water, 130 feet on out. And that gag, he can still be found in that 100 foot of water. They like to hold over good structure, ledges, springs, and smaller areas of hard bottom, which a lot of guys call Swiss cheese bottom. So it's a good idea to have a good bottom machine and always be studying that bottom when you're running from one spot to the other. Now, when we get into fall, a lot of the gags will push in close as 40, 50 feet of water, as well as getting inside our intercoastal waterways and the Egmont Key ship channel, which runs all the way into upper Tampa Bay. And guys will troll lift plugs like X-Wraps and stretch 20s and 30s. And it's not uncommon to have days where they get their limit in gag groupers in the bay, some of the fish up to 30, 32 inches. That being said, frozen sardines are probably the best go-to bait, as well as live pinfish, blue runners, squirrelfish, and grunts. You know, we also have the Goliath grouper, which is pretty much just like a giant black on steroids. And he can be caught on a whole jack, a whole bluefish, just about anything big and chunked. And you know, it's good to have heavy gear for him, or even a cable line. And then our last popular grouper I mentioned earlier with the Chris Seeger note is the scamp grouper, probably the best eating one in the bunch. And he mixes in with the gags, especially around those ledges and springs. No matter how you slice it, StarTron Central West region is really good grouper fishery, and it's year-round. I've got a couple photos from one of our best offshore party boats out of Johns Pass, Hubbard's overnight party boat. And those are a real nice gag and a real nice scamp grouper.
Yeah, it sure is. They look good, bub. All right, let's go offshore, stay offshore. Give me some blackfin tunas.
Blackfin tuna, you know, I finally got a chance to get this species into the mix. It's been red hot for the last month, starting to wind down, but guys are still doing real well. One of the reasons, Rick, because during all this melee we've been in, the cruise ships have been anchored just outside Egmont Pass in that 10, 11-mile range. And because of those big structures being out there anchored, what's happened? Bait's gathered up around it. And you got your blackfin tunas, your kingfish, and all those other bait feeders. So it's not uncommon for guys to get out around those anchored up cruise ships, and they're having good, it's like early morning and then right at sunset. Middle of the day, they're getting kingfish, but the blackfins are getting early morning, right at sunset, up to 25 pounds, free lining or even corking live pilchards or thread fins. And I've got a photo tonight of Yamaha Master Technician Devin Moran of Ingman Marine aboard a nice Ingman Marine Cobia 301 with my favorite fisher partner, Lady Di.
All right, let's go inshore, bub.
Tarpon, your favorite species, Rick, is finally getting into gear here when we can get a couple days of east winds in the morning, probably more consistent down south, Charlotte Harbor, Boca Grande Pass, and all the way up the New Pass along the beaches. Guys have been doing real good at night around the bridges in the inlet, Longboat Pass Inlet and New Pass Bridge, and they're using live ladyfish and live silver mullet at nighttime, and in the day, stick with the small to medium-sized blue crabs or past crabs, and then your thread fins, you can cork them or free line them. And nice photo tonight from Captain Mark Bennett of a tarpon coming alongside his boat. I just really thought it was a pretty picture.
It is pretty. Tell me about the redfish quickly.
Final species, your favorite and mine, redfish. I got to keep talking about that redfish in the south part of the region. Also down there around the east side of the harbor from Burnt Store down to Pirate Harbor, and then around Bull Bay and Turtle Bay oyster bars on the higher stages of the tide, or up along the mangroves around Terracea Bay and Palmasola Bay. The key's been cut ladyfish, cut thread fins, or if you like using lures, 1/4 ounce gold spoon or golden brim saltwater assassin sea shad on a 1/4 ounce silver jig head. In my last redfish photo tonight, Captain Josh Prunier and one of his good clients, Brett Hall, with a couple they got right after dark around Anna Maria Island.
All right, Bub, thank you so much. We're going to take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. He says inshore snook. Nighttime fishing is going strong. Fish to ICW lights with live free line select shrimp or silver mullet from Blackburn Point Bridge south to Venice Jetties. And then offshore amberjacks holding on the springs and ledges at 80 to 120 feet of water off a new pass. Live pins or blue runners is the best bait, but don't be afraid to use a vertical jig, Brie.
Don't be afraid. All right, now let's check in with Captain Pat Deneen in the Garmin Panhandle region, where there's some good fishing on the horizon. Go for it, Pat.
Hey, Brie. Yeah, the Panhandle does have some pretty good grouper fishing. A few are caught in the bays, particularly over in Pensacola Bay, but they're primarily targeted in the Gulf and waters 100-plus feet deep. And that's the beauty of the Florida Panhandle. It's not far off the coast to 100 foot of water compared to the rest of the Florida Gulf Coast. All the groupers are structural oriented, as we know, and the red grouper seem to favor live natural bottom, while the gags and other grouper can be on natural or artificial bottom. And the scamps, probably one of the best eating of all the groupers, are pretty common in the deeper natural areas south and west of Pensacola. It's primarily a bait fisher using Carolina rigs with heavy leaders and circle hooks to match the bait size. A live pinfish or a butterfly dead bait is an excellent grouper bait, but an octopus is probably considered by many to be the choicest of all baits. When grouper fishing, the critical time is right after you get the bite, because they're going to want to turn around and get back into its hole, and if you don't pull on them that first few moments, you're going to lose them. And there's a photo there. I'm sure Andrew Grasshopper Dover, my old mate, he probably had his hands full with that gag right after it bit, but he managed to win the battle. That's a pretty nice one.
All right, tell me what else you got.
Rick, the cobia fish in the past week or two has been very consistent. And this season certainly has seen more fish than in the past several. And hopefully that's the indicator that our fish numbers are starting to grow. We've had several off years. Best conditions are that moderate east to southeast winds that push them along their migration route, and abundant sunshine to help find them and also get them up on the surface. Quality sunglasses are important for seeing them. So find you a pair of Costa that the frame fits your face well, and I like the amber lenses to really make those fish pop in the green water. Present live eels or fin fish on a heavy spinning rod with 50 to 60 pound leader, and also have a variety of baits and jigs ready to fool a finicky fish. I mean, sometimes he won't eat this, won't eat that, but then all of a sudden you show them something different and they ate it. Mini cobia over 50 pounds have been caught in the past couple of weeks, with a few over 70, and I heard of one that is 90 caught off west of Pensacola. Moving inshore, there's been some good red fishing for slot redfish throughout the Panhandle region. We have been fishing residential docks at 2 to 3 feet of water on the north and south sides of Choctawhatchee Bay. I've been using that track feature on the road end to just ease along the ends of the docks, and we've been sight fishing small groups of 3 to 8 redfish, casting 1/8 ounce jig heads with a Bass Assassin paddle tail bait. The water's pretty clear. The sandy part bottom is light. So I like using a natural color bait with a little bit of gold flash or flash in it. Captain Chuck Kemper in Navarre has also been finding plenty of redfish on the docks at the Sound. Captain Justin Leake reports similar conditions in Panama City. The average size fish on these flats is about 24 inches. And there's a photo of a Lucky Chucky with a typical redfish that he's been finding in those flats over in Navarre.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty, huh?
Yeah, man. Tell me.
Finally, Rick, inshore, the pompano fishing, while not as crazy as it was a couple weeks ago, remains really strong. The water along the Gulf side beaches is clean and grass-free, and now that the beaches are reopening, shore-based anglers are getting a crack at these fish. You want to look for deep holes, places where the trough is close to shore, and places where the sandbars create a pinch point The pompano are mostly moving east to west along the beach, although yesterday a lot of them were going west to east, so you never know. But most of our anglers are fishing several rods from sand spikes. They're using a 2-hook dropper rig baited with sand fleas and a piece of orange or pink fish bite that adds color and smell. And you can also set up on a step ladder right on that first bar, sit on top of the ladder and sight cast with jigs. You can also expect to see some big redfish cruising the beach. There's been a whole bunch of them.
All right, Pat Tar, great report, bud. Thank you so much. Time to look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Pat says inshore, sight fish, redfish in Panama City back bays and 1 to 2 feet of water using a 1/4 ounce weedless gold spoon or a bass assassin 4-inch sea shad in golden brim color. And then offshore, pick the weather window and head southwest to the rigs for yellowfin tunas. Use chunk or live baits for those guys.
That weather window, though.
Yeah, man.
Okay, our captain in the Bell South West region is ready to go. But first, let's get a sneak peek from Dave Ferrell at the CCA Workbench. Dave, do you have new products ready to go?
I do. Look at this little thing.
Oh,
Isn't that pretty bad?
What?
This is my Star Trek deal here.
Star Trek. You look pretty cool.
Night vision, night track.
Night track.
We'll be back with Night Track.
Very cool.
Careful, Dave.
Nice.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Ameritrail. Load. Launch. Relax. Real Legends. Exclusively at Bell's. Okuma. Inspired Fishing. Discover Crystal River, Florida. And Maverick Boat Group. Makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO, Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
You sons of fishes. Ain't enough fish on this lake for 2 clubs.
Really? Well, we see plenty of fish live with Panoptics.
Yep. Dang, we should get Panoptics. Maybe we'll just take yours.
What's going on here? You boys have license?
Yes, sir.
Nope. There he is.
Oh, I got him.
Deep within Key Largo, you'll see things that may surprise you. From the unspoiled wilderness of the Florida Everglades to the tranquility of John Panhandle State Park, look below the surface and you'll find more depth in Key Largo in the Florida Keys.
So Dave, we're here at the CCA Workbench, and Night Tracks has really changed quite a bit since the last time we had it on 4 years ago.
Been a long time, but this thing's really cool. This is a handheld version of the Night Track, which is really cool because you could take it anywhere you want. You know, you can have it in your car. It charges up and it will last for 8 hours. You know, on and off use and 3 hours of continuous use. But you know, it's not thermal imaging. It's a CCD, which is a charge coupled device, and I'll let you guys look that up on Wikipedia to figure out all how that works. But it's just a different deal, and what it does is it gives you way more resolution. This one comes with like 437 pixels and 437,000 pixels, and the competition only has something like 300,000, 320 or something, and it has a refresh rate of 60 frames per second versus the 20 frames per second as the normal ones. So it's a really high-end machine. It only draws 600 milliamps of juice when you got it plugged in, because you can mount it to your boat or whatever. You don't have to have the handheld version like we have here. And, it has a double ball joint on the back here, so you can move the screen around once you put it wherever you like. And, go out at night, which is a great thing because, it's not good to run at night without a night tracker,
exactly,
night
and it
vision
has
of some sort.
It obviously has infrared. So, guys, I got a couple pictures of the way we've mounted it on the Contender. We have a 35-foot Contender, and this is the camera there mounted on the Contender. Comes with mounting hardware when you buy it from Night Tracks. But look at the difference, Dave. When you look at this picture, this was taken in total darkness off of the Garmin screen,
right,
versus the competition, what they basically have is thermal resolution.
Right.
So the picture's not as clear, but they can see heat, which we don't have that with Night Tracks. But when it comes to seeing and clarity and being able to see depth of perception, this Night Tracks at $4,100 is the way to go.
Yeah, that's really.
So where do you go? Night Tracks.
And if you're going to be fishing at night, going sword fishing or anything, don't run a boat unless you got something like this.
Absolutely. Nighttracks.com.
Don't run at night.
All right, what's next,
it's
Dave?
Spooky. All right, next we got the Pompano chasers here. My buddy Rick Vidalich up in the Jupiter area makes these. He's a big Pompano man. They call him the Pompano Rich. He's the articles everywhere. But he makes these jigs and these quills, and they're really unique. The jigs, got that triangle shape, so when they fall, they flutter a little bit. And they're all hand-tied quills that he sells as well. He puts it on 20-pound fluorocarbon. You can buy the quills and or the jigs separately. He makes hundreds of different colors. They catch everything, whiting, pompano, everything that fishes in the surf. But what I really like you to take a look at is how he's got his quills rigged on here. When that when he jigs that thing, the jig will hit the bottom and then the quill will come down slowly afterwards. And he says he gets 90% of his bites on that little quill there, and
of the hop and drop rig.
Yep, exactly. It's the hop and drop and rig. So give Rich a call at 561-818-0589. He wants me to put his phone number out there to the world. So
all right. So Everglades Fishing Company.
Everglades Fishing Company at evergladesfishingco.com. You can get these nice deck boots. They're really tough, comfortable. They got nice siping on the bottom. They're waterproof, the perfect size. They're not so tall that they're scraping the back of your calf, which is what I hate. And they're not really low, so water can't get over the top of them, which is why you're wearing a deck boot anyway, to keep your feet dry.
They're so crazy comfortable.
Right.
They really are. It's like walking on sponges, but because of the height here, they're not so bloody hot because it's not so tall.
Right, and they got this nice, a really nice lining around the top here where it touches you, which is really soft and nice, and
no chafing.
And no chafing, because it sucks to get out there and have a
So evergladesfishingcompany.com.
All right.
All right, man. Well, we'll get to these jigs next week.
Okay.
Is that cool?
All right, that's cool.
You did a good job over here with Mike and all this cool stuff tonight.
Well, he did it. All I did was feed him a question.
I appreciate it very much. What do you think, Brie?
Feeding questions. Well, I think those things will hide. Your cankles, just great, gentlemen.
Cankles.
All right, the Bell Southwest region has them all when it comes to grouper, and Captain Ronnie Houston is here to give it his all when it comes to getting you that bite. Let's hear it, Ronnie.
Well, like always, Bree, it's always a pleasure representing the Bell Southwest region. The information I got from Captain Mike Avenant is, the variety of species throughout the region are basically reds, gags, blacks, scamps, and Goliath. But most caught during the winter months are the reds. But during the winter months also, the gags move south and they come closer to shore, with some even being caught in the bays. Now, the reds can be caught drifting with jigs and also anchored up on hard bottom. But gags can also be caught trolling large lip plugs, starting in depths of about 50 feet and less in the winter months. Winter months is really good time to just get out there and troll some plugs. But the best method really is anchored up and using live bait for the blacks and the scamp grouper. And they are the best eating, but almost the most difficult to locate. Now, most are caught on live bait, and basically a lot of the blacks and the scamps are really caught red snapper fishing in depths of about 130 feet and beyond. And the red grouper bite has still been great, and I've got a picture with Captain Mike Avenant. These are the size red groupers he's been consistently catching when he's able to beat the weather and get out.
Nice.
I'm still on the offshore side, getting great reports up to the north from Captain Corey McGuire. He says the kingfish bite has been incredible. He's telling me he's catching a lot of 10 to 15 pound fish, but he's also getting some 30 to 40 pound fish mixed in, anywhere from Fort Myers Beach to Stump Pass. He's also telling me you can get as close as 7 miles and out to 30 miles. Now, he's also telling me he's fishing large schools to bait when he's running out, but he's really primarily trying to concentrate on fishing wrecks and hard bottom. He's doing a little bit different. He's using a lot of free line whitebait or thread fins with a shot of wire, but one of the key things he's doing is he's live chumming these baits. He's telling me that seems to be the key. It's been getting the fish fired up by live chumming these baits, and he's also telling me while he's doing this, the black fins are also coming in and getting some of the bait. So besides the kings, he's also getting the black fins. Make sure you got a shot wire. And I got a picture of a nice kingfish that was just recently caught with the good weather while fishing with Captain Corey McGuire.
Nice.
Shore side, the water's still clean all the way through the whole region on the outside. Now, we got a front pushing through right now at the moment. It's going to rain, still raining, but by the weekend, the forecast says winds are going to be back to the northeast and east midday and then get that westerly blow in the afternoon. So the early morning is the opportunity to get out and catch these fish, like the tarpon. They're telling me, Captain Danny Latham and Corey McGuire says right now, tarpon fishing is in full swing. Fish right now are from Knapp's Point all the way up to the harbor. These two guys are telling me, and they've been doing this a long time, one of the best early migration they have seen in a long time, basically off the beaches. But there are plenty of groups in pods, and they can also be seen free jumping. Getting ahead of these fish is going to be the key. There's so many fish, and these fish aren't pressured right now due to a lot of people not being out on the water. Don't chase these fish down. Let these fish come to you. From the beaches and the passes, these guys are telling me the pass crabs have been the best baits. But if you get a blown, you got to get into the bay and the harbor. Thread pins have been the bait of choice. And I got a couple nice pictures of a couple tarpon releases with Captain Danny Latham and Corey McGuire. They're saying that bite's on fire right now. Final species is going to be the redfish. Captain Danny Latham to the north is also reporting this is some of the best red fishing he has seen in years. He's telling me right now from the east wall, from Alligator to Burn Store, Bull and Turtle Bay, but he's also telling me on high water, especially when the mangroves are flooded. But on the lower stages, he says, look for mullet schools out on the edges, or here's a key, grass flat edges that are close to deep water. The outer sandbars and the oyster bars. He's telling me baits of choice right now with plenty to be caught are the live filtered, chum, or in the heat of the day on the flood tides, cut mullet, ladyfish, cut crabs for the flood tides, under the bushes. And I got another nice set of pictures while fishing with Captain Danny Latham. Guys, right now the water's clean, fishing is good. Get out, listen to what these captains tell you, work the pattern, catch you some fish.
All right, thank you so much, Ronnie. Good report. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Caddy Can hotspots from the Southwest region, Brie.
Let's do it.
So guys, I'm gonna say that he's telling us to make sure that we go inshore fishing trout, Coon Key to Indian Key on the outer Gulf Islands using soft plastic shrimp on a jig head and bright colored bucktails tipped with a shrimp. And then offshore permit, Wiggins Pass to Boca Grande fishing wrecks and as close as 6 miles out to 20 miles using those live crabs.
All right, we've got your Alvy Reels Northeast and Costa Vieja Southeast regions coming at you next, so be ready to reel. And we'll be right back here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. But before we take a break, we want to remind you to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Make sure to visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow and tag us on Instagram in your photos, and subscribe to our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Alvy Reels, a better way to fish. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing, book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing. that nothing says no to fish bites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Come explore untouched Florida, where you'll step into holy sea cow and fish pristine waters where you'll reel in, whoa! Come discover Crystal River with exciting adventures and incredible surprises everywhere. From exhilarating river adventures to scalloping in the Gulf to delicious fish to fork cuisine, this is the place where you can relax into Just a short drive from Tampa and Orlando is the amazing Discover Crystal River, Florida. Learn more at discovercrystalriverfl.com.
We're glad you're back because we have your Alvy Reels Northeast Region Captain Tommy Derringer in all his garage studio glory ready to give us some super grouper news. Right, Tommy?
Oh, yeah, some super grouper news. No doubt about that, Brie. You know, we've got some killer grouper fishing here in the Alvy Reels Northeast Region. And
we're paused here. Oh, we're back.
Sorry, guys. You know, you'll find our grouper on all kinds of different stuff here. We already got them on our offshore ledges, reefs, and wrecks. Late winter into spring is probably going to be your best bet at a grouper. And you know what, guys? It should be a great opening of the season this weekend. We've got some great weather coming, and I spoke to Captain Jimmy Laidler from thelegendfishing.com, who's our resident grouper whisperer. And he told me the water has stayed nice and cool this year, and the grouper are going to be stacked up out there if you can find the right spots. Now, Jimmy said those groupers are going to hold on just about any kind of structure, but a lot of times the smaller ledges and live bottom are going to hold some of the biggest grouper. Now, basically, if you target the public numbers, you know, you're probably not going to catch a ton of grouper, but Captain Jimmy says you're going to have a much better chance, especially at a big grouper, if you find that smaller live bottom that not everybody's going to fish. You're probably not going to mark a lot of those grouper on your bottom machine, but if you find a small ledge or a piece of live bottom out there, it's definitely worth a drop. Now, the best baits are going to be live pinfish, grunts, or sardines, but a big Boston mackerel, even a few Boston mackerels on the hook are going to work well. Now, Captain Jimmy's got a top secret gag grouper bait, and that's a live pink porgy. As those big gags, he tells me they can't resist those guys. Now, a 100-pound test main line to a fish finder rig with about 10 foot of a 150-pound leader and a stout eagle claw circle hook. That's going to be the typical setup. But of course, you can upsize your tackle a little if you're fishing around some big structure, or you can downsize it if you're over some live bottom. Now, I've got a photo here. This is Captain Jimmy Laidler with a big old Northeast Florida black belly grouper, as we call them.
Nice.
Now, staying offshore, guys, the blackfin tuna bite is wide open right now throughout the region. I spoke to my good buddy, Captain Trey Jones. He tells me they've been catching the blackfins just inside the ledge in about 160 foot of water on out to about 220 feet. Now, they're catching most of their fish on naked ballyhoo, but they've also been running some cedar plugs and doing pretty well with those as well. Now, Captain Trey says if you're not getting the bite, downsize your leader, use a little swivel, you know, basically make your stuff smaller because, you know, as you know, tuna have big eyeballs and they can be really spooky. Now, I got another photo here. This is Molly Bowles with a big blackfin tuna that she caught with Captain Trey Jones just east of St. Augustine. Now, moving inshore, guys, as we get closer to summer and things start to heat up a bit, I get really excited about these tides that we have this weekend. Now, being able to get out at first light with low tide mid-morning, that's a perfect recipe for catching redfish in our region, especially as it gets hotter heading into summer. Now, the redfish, they're doing a lot of really cool things right now. Now, one thing that they're doing is they're stacking up in the creek holes around the low tide. The smaller creeks from Mayport down through St. Augustine, they are especially good right now for those redfish. If you have a shallow draft skiff, like the Maverick HPX here in my garage, or a paddleboard or a kayak, you can sneak into those smaller creeks, and set up in the little deeper spots, and you're probably gonna catch a bunch of redfish. A 1/4 ounce jig and a shrimp or a minnow is gonna get it done right now in those creeks. Now the redfish are also backing and waking right along the banks of the ICW. And if you can dodge the crazy boat traffic that we've been having, the reds have been feeding on that lowest of the tide right along the edges of the flats on the intercoastal. Now we've been catching this week on the Bass Assassin sea shads in the Houdini color. Now the topwater redfish bite is also going really strong. If you get out first thing when the tide is still up a bit, a topwater plug is gonna be just great. Now just look for schools of mullet, and that's probably where you're gonna find the redfish. I got another photo. This is Chloe Bedford with a nice upper slot redfish she caught with me in a creek hole at low tide in St. Augustine this week. Now moving on to trout, guys, I spoke to Captain Kent Gibbons this week. He tells me some big trout are showing up in the Tomoka Basin area. Captain Kent said he's been catching some really big trout using a Bass Assassin jerkbait in a natural color, and he's just gonna fish that thing around schools of mullet, and it's been especially good early in the morning. And there's also been some big trout coming from Jacksonville around Mill Cove and around along the St. John's near the Dames Point Bridge on that early outgoing tide. Top water at first light and then switch it up to a subsurface plug once the sun comes up. Now, guys, this is usually one of the best times of year to catch a gator trout in my region. So if you get a chance, get out there this weekend. Weather's gonna be beautiful, and hopefully there's gonna be some big trout on the end of your lines.
Tommy, I got a quick question for you. How you digging that Rodan for your little skiff there?
Man, I'll tell you what, it's super impressive. The spot lock is like nothing I've ever used. You put it on and man, you do not move. It's really impressive.
All right, well, I'm glad you're happy with it. All right, bud, thank you. Did a great job tonight. Good job, recovery there on our little bounce back that happens in our
live
new
TV.
world, live
What are you
TV.
gonna do?
We'll talk to you next week, bub. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the strike zone northeast region. Tommy says that inshore, redfish are stacking up in the creek holes from Mayport to St. Augustine on that negative low tide, and then use live shrimp or a mud minnow on a 1/4 ounce jig head, and then offshore blackfin tunas from just inside the ledge out to 220 feet of water. Troll naked ballyhoo or a cedar plug. Troll naked, anything works.
A minnow.
A minnow.
A minnow. Minnow.
Not a minnow is what
All
you use
right.
to catch them snapples.
Hold up a minnow.
Come on, man.
All right. The Casavea Southeast region never disappoints unlike this guy. And this week is no exception. So let's hear from Captain Jimbo Thomas on how to take advantage of the open season and get some group of sandwiches in our bellies. Hi, Jimbo.
That's right. Hey, Brie, and hey, Rick. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out there and catching some grouper. You know, they've been left alone for the last 4 months, so they should hopefully be biting when that season opens on this Friday, May 1st. Now, the main grouper species that we target here in the southeast region are black groupers, gag groupers, and red groupers. And there's a few different ways to go about catching those groupers. One of the most productive methods, and probably one of my favorites, is to troll deep diving plugs over the top of the reef, anywhere from 15 to 50 feet of water. And any big lip deep diving plug will work. Now, you can also fish a rig ballyhoo behind a planer or a wireline outfit to get your bait down into that grouper strike zone. The best trolling speeds are 3 to 5 knots. You want to use some heavy tackle with a tight drag, because when that grouper does bite, he's going to try to get back in those rocks, so you want to have something to try and keep him out of the rocks. So you want to keep the boat moving, keep him out of the reef. Then you could also drift over any good reef structure, wrecks, or ledges in anywhere from 80 to 250 feet of water. That's also a great way to target groupers, and you want to use live baits such as pinfish, blue runners, grunts, and speedos, or you can drop a jig or a butterfly jig down on those same structures, hopefully get a grouper bite out of that. And the basic rig for live bait is a long 80 to 100-pound monofilament leader, and we use an 8/0 to 10/0 circle hook, whatever the size of the bait, we want to match that hook size to the bait, and use enough lead to hold the bottom. And then you can also anchor over this same bottom structure. It's a great way to get them. You can let your bait lay still on the bottom, so if those groupers are a little weary, they have a little time to think about eating it. Now, most of the grouper that come out of the deep water in the southeast region are in the 15 to 20-pound range, but we do see them much bigger. And then on the reef, their mixed sizes anywhere from sublegal on up. Now, I do have a photo. This estimated 60-pound grouper we caught off Key Biscayne on a live bait, but unfortunately it was a couple months ago and the season was closed, so we were able to get him down deep. Hopefully he survived and I can catch him on on Friday. That's the plan.
All right, go get him.
But that was a nice one.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. But now, also offshore, there's been some really nice kingfish caught in the last week. The action's been spectacular, actually. Now, most of the fish have been in the 12 to 15 pound range, but there have been fish as big as 40 pounds that I've heard of caught, and the bite's been happening throughout the region. Now, best baits have been live herrings, pilchards, and sardines. You can drift them or fish them under the kite. The kite's been getting their fair share of bites, but drifting them's been working even better because the bait's been getting a little deeper. And also a big live speedo or a blue runner. That's what the really big kings have been eating. Now, we've been using 20-pound tackle, using 30 to 40-pound fluorocarbon leader, and then an 18-inch piece of number 4 or number 5 wire leader, in a 4.0 to 6.0 circle hook or J hook or even treble hook. Now, most of the fish have been in the 90 to 140 foot depth range. Best bite's been first thing in the morning and then late into the afternoon. But in the last couple of days, it's been pretty good throughout the day, really. Now, moving inshore, there's been plenty of tarpon around, and they've been looking to bite and get caught. Now, all of the inlets in the region have been holding tarpon, as well as most of the bridges and the lit docks of the I2W. And the inlets, look for marks on your fish finder or fish rolling on the surface around the mouths of the inlets and also along the adjacent beaches on both the north and south sides of those jetties. And both the incoming and outgoing tides have been good in the early mornings and evenings. Best baits have been a big live shrimp or a live crab. Use a 6.0 to 8.0 circle hook, 60 to 80 pound mono or fluoro leader. Then around the bridges and docks, look for those tarpon feeding along the shadow lines. Outgoing tide has been the best from what we've heard. And the big live shrimp, crab, or live mullet should work. Or you can cast swimming plugs from the shadow lines, work them on out. Now, some of these tarpon, especially in the inlets, have been up to 120 pounds. Now, moving really inshore, largemouth bass fishing has been really good in the Everglades and the lakes and canals throughout the region. The low water levels in the glades have all these bass pushed off the flats. It's been concentrating them in the deeper holes and in the canals. These largemouths have been eating live shiners, crankbaits, and artificial worms early in the mornings and then late in the afternoon. Bulk of these bass are going to be on the small side, but you're going to catch a lot of them. Then in the lakes and canals throughout the region, along with the largemouths, the peacock bass have been red hot. Now, the key to catching these peacocks is to find some clear water, and they're going to bite best in the middle of the day. They like that heat. Now, first bait of choice for these peacocks is a live minnow or shiner, or you can use deep running crankbaits and soft plastics in dark colors.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. Good report from the Casa Vieja region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots. Jimbo says inshore, drift a live shrimp or a crab around the bridge's shadow lines, and in the inlets for evening tarpon. Use 60 to 80 pound diamond fluorocarbon leader and a Trocar 8.0 circle hook. And then offshore, drift or kite fish the baits in 90 to 300 feet of water for sailfish, kingfish, blackfin, tuna, and occasional mahi, Brie.
Well, ladies and gents, stay with us while we continue wrecking them here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, because we're pulling some drag in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region next. We'll be right back.
Going to Hagalicious.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA. Fish for the world. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. And Bells. Everything you need to live life local.
When you live on an island, surrounded by warm, clear water, and a million ways to enjoy it, it's amazing you'll ever have time to come up for air. Key West. Close to perfect, far from normal.
Some work can't stop because our communities need you, which is why we're working to keep you working, to help you keep homes and properties maintained. your farm running, and construction moving. Your work is essential, and we're here to help. Together, we will get through this. Take advantage of 0% financing on Kubota equipment. No payments for 90 days. Offer expires May 31st.
Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealer.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
Have you ever felt your heart pounding while feeling the power of a tarpon in the Florida Keys? Or experienced the changing colors of a mahi as you bring it on board? Whether it's in the Bahamas, the Florida Keys, Guatemala, or the Florida Everglades, Murphy's Law Sports Fishing has the ability to guide you to the fish of a lifetime. To book your trip today, call 305-246-0673 or go to murphyslawsportfishing.com.
Today's Power Pole tip is about the Sea Monster Network. As most of you know, Power Pole has always been a technology-driven company and will continue to innovate new products and technologies now and into the future. It was about 6 or 7 years ago that we looked at all the different technologies that were available on the market, but they all had limitations like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So we designed and built the Sea Monster Network from the ground up, specifically designed it for the marine industry so that anglers could wirelessly control everything on their boat from bow to stern. Now, it may not be as obvious as the Power Pole anchors on the back of everyone's boat, but it will soon be just as widespread. So, next time you're in the store and you're picking out your favorite marine accessory, look for the Sea Monster logo on those products. And that is your Power Pole tip.
All right, it's grouper galore in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region, and Captain Jeff Hageman is on the line to give us all the details. Go for it, Hag.
We got a grouper hotspot over here. Grouper can be found throughout the whole region. With our relatively shallow coast and a lot of limestone bottom, our grouper fisher is probably one of the best in the state. From near shore off to offshore, we got fish from on flat limestone poles to rock piles, ledges, high relief structures, and wrecks. Pinfish and pigfish are one of the favorite live baits for catching grouper. As far as cut bait goes, sardines and squid are probably one of the favorites. We've got gags, carbos, which is a true black, reds, scamp, yellow edge, snowies, warsaws, and Goliath grouper. They can be caught in my region from anywhere from 400 to 700 feet of water. Heavy tackle's a must. High-speed reels, heavy-action rods, 50 to 80-pound mainline. Some of the smaller, lighter butterfly outfits are getting more and more popular with 100-pound braid on them or even higher. They're a little lighter to use and a little easier to handle. We also have a really good wintertime shallow water gag grouper fishery from Wackasasa area to Bayport. Fish being caught on heavy spinning gear, throwing swimming plugs, poppers, and even live pilchards at grouper in 6 to 8 feet of water. And a shallow water grouper is unreal and fights like completely different fish. I've got a couple photos here from the Big Nasty Fishing team. One of a nice Warsaw.
Nice.
And another big old rusty belly.
Nice.
Staying offshore, the mangrove snapper bite's been strong throughout the region. Fish being caught from inshore to offshore in 20 to 75 feet of water over any high relief structure, reefs, and wrecks. Small pinfish, live or cut shrimp are working good on a knocker rig with 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader and a 2 to 4 aught circle hook. And before we go inshore, remember the Star Tournament is being moved to July 1st, and there's plenty of time to get registered. They're offering $500,000 in cash and prizes, and you don't even have to catch that iHeartRadio fish, redfish, to win some prizes and money. But speaking of redfish, Captain Mario Costello of Tall Tail Charters out of Plantation Inn, reports a good redfish bite right now around the Mangrove Islands in Keys from Crystal River to Homosassa. He's working the mangrove islands that have active mullet schools around them and points, and holding in the coves and overhangs of the mangrove branches. He's using both pinfish and live select shrimp free line on a 4/0 circle hook in the middle of the incoming tide. The bigger redfish have been eating pinfish, and the slot-sized redfish have been eating the shrimp. Redfish have been ranging anywhere from 20 to 30 inches, and I got a photo here of Rachel Healy with a nice 24-inch redfish.
Nice. All right. What else you got for us tonight, bub?
I got some more redfish. I'm going to move down a little bit and then go into snook. Captain Jimmy Huddleston at CaptainHud.com reports the redfish have moved in the shallow water flats for a little less pressure, and as the tide floods, the reds have been heading up underneath the mangroves and hunting for an easy meal. Pinfish and cut bait have been the baits of choice, and he's using 30-pound fluorocarbon to help break-offs because the fish are actually fishing under the trees. Captain Jimmy also reports right now a good snook bite has really taken off the last couple of weeks. Many big fish have moved in from the nearshore wrecks and staging up along the beaches with any kind of rocks or structure along the shoreline, yielding good numbers of snook in the 20 to 30-inch range. Some larger fish have been mixed in, and live greenbacks have been the key. Captain Jason Lineberger of Ruthless Fishing Charters out of Tampa Bay also reports a really good snook bite right now on the incoming tide, producing some really good fish right now in the oyster bars near Wheaton Island and Picnic Island. And he's using live sardines as well. Bigger the better. And I got a photo here of Captain Jimmy's Huddleston's nice Ozonos hook.
That's a nice one, Hag. Good job. I'm looking forward to being with you Saturday. Brie and I are coming over, so we're going to go see if we can't catch a poon with Hagalicious. All right, bub, thanks. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Alta Construction Company Northwest hotspots. Inshore snook on the outgoing and incoming tides. On the beaches, throw a half-ounce jig head with a bass sass and saltwater sea shat. And then offshore, mangrove snappers bite in 20 to 120 feet of water over any high relief structure. Use a shrimp or small sardines as bait, and then you might want to free line them with lots of chum.
Lots of chum. Okay, our captains have spoken, and we are over prepared for a great weekend of catching. But stay tuned because we have more secrets to tell, like what our species is next week. And it's a good one.
It is.
It's a good one. We'll be right back here on the.
Maybe my favorite.
Your favorite. You have so many favorites. We'll be back.
I know.
Reliability. Yamaha is legendary for it. But it's more than a legend. It's something boaters have come to value. Why? Because it's rare. Because in this fast-paced, single-use world, few things are built to last. So when we find something that is, we hold on for dear life, to friendships, to traditions, to outboards. Because it's the lucky few who get to spend as much time on the water as they'd like. The rest of us, we look forward to those precious few days. That makes every second sacred. Every moment mean that much more. And it drives us to wring the most of every minute we get on the water, having incredible adventures, fighting the fish, making unforgettable memories. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life. Because reliability starts here.
What started in the flats and bays has migrated offshore. GPS-guided trolling motor technology has moved to boats in the 35-plus foot class and allowed anchoring capabilities on most center consoles in any depth of water. From snook and redfish inshore to grouper and swordfish way out deep, Rodan Marine Systems has a GPS anchor to hold your vessel on location. Set it, forget it, catch more fish.
The only reel with over 100 years of heritage. Alvi Sidecast reels allow you to cast over 150 yards with up to 900 yards of capacity. Alvi's state-of-the-art drag and 22-inch retrieve rate per wine is perfect for any surf challenge. Alvi reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the Alvi also comes with a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alvius.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Next week, we are talking tarpon.
Tarpon.
Yay!
That's so exciting.
You and
Is
I
that
are
your
going
favorite?
tarpon fishing. So
We
guess
are.
what?
The silver herring.
Maybe we will have some photographics for...
Don't jinx us.
No, I won't.
Yes, we're going fishing with Hageman. We are fishing for tarpon.
Yep.
And it's so fitting. This is perfect.
Yeah, man.
It's like we planned it or something.
Exactly.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you get out there, catch a big grouper, send it to us.
We
And
coming,
see you
Boca
later.
Grande.
Stay
We
safe, stay
coming.
healthy.
The dynamic duo coming.